Our next speaker is Dmitri Glinski, a co-founder and leader of the New York-based Russian-speaking Community Council, a 501c3 organization, and a member of the New York Immigration Coalition since 2011. He works closely, especially with core communities of exiles, refugees, and other new Americans from former Soviet countries, but also with everyone who share their values, goals, and equal opportunity for all immigrants. This organization helps its community overcome barriers to their successful integration in the American society through the provision of social services, the promotion of civic participation, leadership development, and mutual understanding and collaboration with other communities. Would you mind sharing how you successfully organize these communities and mobilize them to come together to advocate for Ukrainians fleeing the war in Ukraine?
Thank you, We Are All America team, especially Neira and Fatima and everyone that has brought us to this table and has given us a voice and a platform. I will give a context to answering the question. The context is that there is a huge abyss between East European, not only Ukrainian, Russian, but other immigrant communities versus others. And that's why when you ask who is here from Europe, there is only one hand raised, I believe. Immigrants from my community, and I'm one of those, will not be seen by you working, getting funded, running funded organizations, serving their people. And that is a long-standing issue. You will be hard-pressed to find anyone from Ukrainian or Russian-speaking or other post-Soviet communities speaking at any of the major immigrant advocacy gatherings, even though we do have immigrant advocates, as you know. A couple of reasons to this situation. One is the intensity of conflicts historically between the West and Russia's successive autocracies have made our community kind of very special in terms of security considerations and geopolitics. And that has affected hugely people in need and exiles, and I call all of us exiles to shorten designation for our parolees and asylum seekers and many other groups. And second is the misuse, unfortunately, on the right and on the left of identity politics, dividing us by gender and race and ethnicity and color to the extent that certain groups, I talk not just about immigrants from former Soviet countries, but East Europeans and others, have felt so alienated, not just from the immigrant advocacy movement, but from other related areas of activities where you don't find them working and funded, that unfortunately and regrettably, and to a great detriment to our cause, millions of them have voted for the most xenophobic and the most anti-immigrant candidate in modern American history, and will have to live with consequences of this. I come from a country, Russia, that has been ruled for 25 years by a dictator that has waged 4 wars, one internal, 2 with neighbors, and 1 interference in a civil war in another country. The West, including the United States, have caved into him at various points, closed their eyes on this, closed the eyes to refugees from Chechnya, partly because it was a Muslim territory. And right now, the Trump administration is just about to make another deal, which will result in another flow of refugees. Unfortunately, we are not connecting all these pieces. We are not. Our donors do not encourage us to connect the dots between various areas. Donors and the system in which we work encourage us to work in silos. But our enemies and those who will define immigration policies deal with the totality of goals that they're trying to achieve regarding immigrants, low-income people, and various parts of society that they don't like. The Ukrainian and Russian anti-war roundtable, and we call it anti-war again to shorten it. We are in solidarity with the Ukrainian people fighting for their freedom and sovereignty, has been set up as the one and only space for dialogue at various institutions and remotely since 2014, bringing various people together. We greatly appreciate that We Are All America recognized this work and has given a space at the table. We look forward to doing more. We were happy to bring people from our communities together to congressional meetings in New York, Atlanta, Minneapolis, Portland, and Denver this summer. That was second time. And we look forward to doing more, but we will not achieve what we want under this government that we are facing without rethinking deeply the relationship between various immigrant communities that we constitute here and breaking those barriers by direct, straightforward talk, because this is the time for speaking very directly about issues. Thank you. Some of the great things have been said here, and I subscribe to them. Most important thing is to continue and expand the ability of underrepresented groups to participate in not only the table, but We Are All America and NIC as well. Our organization has been the only one from our community to be part of the immigrant rights and advocacy movement since the time of campaign for a comprehensive immigration reform in 2013, but we have never seen or heard anyone from East Europeans to be on the panels at the convention. So that's one of the things that would be helpful to raise. But more broadly, I think we are in a time when we need to connect issues. It's important to think and talk about the root causes of migration. The root causes that I described in my country caused about 15 million refugees from 4 countries where these wars were waged, plus Russia. And that's the biggest flow in the recent decade. But you hear about this much less than about other things because our community feels and is not represented in places where people do this for living. And so I call upon all of you to do some introspection into our movement and see how and why some groups, not just within the immigration movement, but more broadly, have been alienated and how they can be brought in. And I encourage and urge everyone to engage in these conversations because they're important and because we want to be prepared for the next cycle when we have to defend our democracy, our institutions, and our immigrant rights, maybe in a much more difficult situation than now.